Heart and Soul, written and illustrated by Kadir Nelson, is a Coretta Scott King winner. The 108-page illustrated book features rich descriptions of the historical African American, focusing its sort of idealized realism on the beauty and form of its dark-skinned subjects. This book is ideal for my middle school classroom for a number of reasons. First, it relies heavily on illustrations to tell the story of both famous and influential men and women of color. But it also has a fair amount of content, and its level of language is more grade level appropriate and rigorous for middle school students. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, is the powerful and inspiring content. The book, like its illustrations, is a combination of harsh reality and optimism. It by no means sugarcoats the struggles and sacrifices made by African Americans throughout the history of the United States, but neither does it dwell on the negative, without highlighting the triumph and strength of the African American people. This book is an excellent study of how the winner writes the history books, so to speak. It is proactive in portraying the historical truth through the eyes of the oppressed, and therefore in giving a voice to the millions of people whose stories have traditionally been brushed aside by the white male historian. My students have often expressed boredom with history, but who can blame them when it serves to do nothing but reinforce their marginalized position in both historical and modern U.S. society? This book shows specifically how important and everyday African Americans experienced and contributed to some of the most important events in U.S. history, and creates a trail of memory in which my minority students can trace their own ancestry and influences. I was particularly impressed with the variety of voices, not just the traditional big names in African American history, but the voice of the everyday individuals and their own struggles on a smaller, though no less important scale. Each chapter begins with a quote, and this emphasis on both famous and non-famous participants in American history is emphasized by the fact that these quotes reflect the voices of both. One chapter, for instance, starts with the words, "Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth," spoken by George Washington. The very next chapter, on the topic of slavery, begins with the words, "Dem days was hell," spoken by a former slave from Alabama. Overall, it is easy to see why this book is award-winning both for content and for illustrations. Both are inspiring, beautiful, and the sentiments contained in this book are an absolutely essential part of any American's understanding of the history of this country. But it is of particular importance for students with a personal connection to African American history. The book's message is loud and clear. The African American people are a proud people with many accomplishments in the face of a very difficult reality. Much has been done, but there is much left to do. Another Coretta Scott King winner, Rap-a-Tap-Tap, Here's Bojangles, Think of That, by Leo and Diane Dillon, is a decidedly more elementary level, though no less influential take on encouraging interest and pride in African American historical figures. It follows the path of Bill Bojangles Robinson, a very famous pre-civil rights era tap dancer, and his influence on the people around him. The book focuses on the joy that his dancing was able to bring to all kinds of people, and hints at the historical truth of his challenging of racial lines through talent. While certainly expressing a tone of greater idealism, both through words and through the colorful, cartoon-like illustrations of the city and its inhabitants, including Bojangles himself. Its positivity impresses upon younger children a positive attitude toward the accomplishments of African Americans in all walks of life. He is portrayed as an artist who brought joy to all who saw him dance, and is even portrayed as something of a magician in style. The protagonist's ability to bring together individuals of white as well as African American descent together in admiration of his immense talent is inspiring, and the message, though simple, is unifying. Both white children and children of color have a strong African American role model in the Bojangles of this story.